Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Today's April 2nd, 2016. In a short while, the men's basketball tournament, the Final Four, will be tipping off. The winners of today's games will meet in the championship Monday, April 4th. If you missed my work on the tournament up to this point, before the tournament began, I predicted that North Carolina would win, defeating Kansas. Obviously, that prediction's not entirely correct. I see now where I made my mistake. Let me take you back to an event that happened just before the tournament began. There was a train wreck in Kansas State just before the tournament started. And I made this prediction video, which I will link in the description. You can watch this if you want to go back. I talked about how this train wreck was directly connected to the May 12th Philadelphia train wreck of 2015, nearly a year ago. If you missed my work from last year, I showed how that train wreck was connected to the upcoming NBA Finals, which I had already projected to be the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I made that prediction based on something that happened in February when the train wreck occurred, which was an obvious staged hoax. I saw how it was connected to the upcoming NBA championship. And also last year at this time, there was another crash hoax in the media, the Germanwings plane. From that crash hoax, I projected the Blue Devils would win the college tournament because where the plane crashed, there is a history of Blue Devil climbers in those mountains. There's more to it than that. I'm just trying to let you know. We live in a world of staged media, staged sports. It's part of how I've been able to make predictions, such as what the Super Bowl would be before it happened. Last year there was a story out of California about a train wreck at exit 38, where a body was catapulted from a car and landed on top of a freeway sign that said Colorado Street. That happened in October. After that story, and based on what was transpiring in the NFL, I said, watch this. The Broncos are going to go to the Super Bowl. They might very well win it. And as time went on, I made more connections. I said the Super Bowl would be Broncos and Panthers in December. I said Von Miller would be the MVP. I said there'd be a Black Panthers tribute. I'm just telling you all this so that you can truly understand what I am saying is not insane. I figured this out from paying a lot of attention, doing a lot of study, doing a lot of research, doing a lot of decoding. It's really quite an accomplishment. And if you can't see that, I'm sorry. But if you have an open enough mind, if you can recognize that what I'm saying is the truth, you can learn a lot from this, and you can help me in this research, because as you can see, my research is not flawless. I predicted that the championship would be North Carolina over Kansas, and it's not Kansas. And part of the reason I missed it is because I overlooked the obvious in regards to how Villanova is connected to Philadelphia. Villanova upset Kansas. Villanova's close to Philadelphia. Think about it. This train wreck in Kansas. Kansas the favorite to win the tournament. They were derailed by the team from Philadelphia, which this train wreck was connected to. In hindsight, I feel like a fool for not seeing it. You know, it was obvious. It was right in front of my face. Amtrak equals 64. March Madness equals 64. Last year, the NBA Finals began on June 4th. The college championship began on April 6th last year. Or I should say it ended. The college championship was on April 6th. Anyway, I'll link my preview video. You can go back and see all the parallels between the train wrecks. For the sake of time, I want to move on with what I see happening today. And again, my prediction, it might not be right. I still favor North Carolina, but now I see the heavy Philadelphia influences in the Final Four with both Syracuse, which is the original home of the 76ers that now play in Philadelphia, and also Villanova that's close to Philadelphia. So this video linked in the description if you want to go back. Before I get to my breakdown, I want to share with you what another YouTube channel commented to me. If you're not familiar with this channel, Dan Barrett, I'm going to link his channel in the description. Once upon a time, more than a year ago, he learned from me, and with his own mind, he's taken this study to another level. You know, Dan, he really gets deep into it. He has a great mind. He makes brilliant connections. I just want to read a little bit of what he wrote to me because this has relevance. He says, "Hey, thanks for the shout out. I was listening to this at work today, and when you brought back up the death of 76ers, remember last year, actually all through this basketball season, Several former Philadelphia 76ers have died. Daryl Dawkins, Moses Malone, Dolph Schayes, and more. Even the original scorekeeper of the team going back to 1947, who died right after the Warriors won the finals, who are originally from Philadelphia. Anyhow, remembered some of the others that died last year. Dolph Schayes was one of them, but he was a Syracuse National. The 76ers used to be Syracuse Nationals until 1963. Schayes was the 4th pick in the draft and wore number 4. Number 44, big number on the tournament this year that's on 4/4 April 4th. The championship. Says he wore 55 too. He died on 12/10/15, 116 days before 4/4. Significant number. This year, Syracuse, their basketball program is 116 years old. North Carolina is playing them today that has 116 career wins in their tournament history. Syracuse would have 67 wins if they win the championship. This year is the 67th season of the Philadelphia 76ers and Nationals. Revelation also has a connection to 67. He makes that point because the name Philadelphia comes from Revelation in the Bible. The 76ers also lost to the Nets on 12/10, giving them a record of 1-22, December 10th. So Syracuse beats the Cavaliers, who are followers of King Charles in the English Civil War, who was executed. So anyway, he goes down a longer path here, but Dan points out some strong parallels that maybe Syracuse has a chance to upset North Carolina. But let's also keep in mind that North Carolina has a lot of parallels to win this championship, and that's why I picked them from the beginning. Should Syracuse win today, should Villanova win today, it will all come back to Philadelphia. That's what it will be all about. You know, the Warriors just won the NBA Finals this year. You know, they have this opportunity to set all these records, including the most wins in the season. The Warriors originally from Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Warriors won the first NBA championship in 47. So, last week, Kansas upset by Villanova 64-59. And what was beautiful about this is Villanova Wildcats equals 64, Kansas Jayhawks equals 64, March Madness equals 64, 64 teams in the tournament, something since 1985. Basketball equals 85 the big way. The small way, it equals 22-31. Last week, Villanova won. It's been 31 years since they won the championship. Also, their point guard was celebrating his 22nd birthday. Think about the numerological alignment of that. Villanova, currently 96 years old, their basketball program. Haven't won the championship since 85, the only time they won it. This is their 36th year in the tournament. The reason that stands out is because 36, when you add 1 through 36, it sums to 666. And 2016 has a lot of numerological connections to 666, something I've been talking about in many videos. If you don't follow my work, this stuff is harder to absorb. But if you're here, you know the information, you know the connections to 36 and 2016. Talk more about that number. 96 is a special number. Freemason equals 96. Their head coach's name also sums to 96. Fitting that they're in their 96th year of existence. They won on the 85th day of the year, March 26th. Again, they hadn't won a championship since 85. If Villanova loses today, it still will have been a great accomplishment to make the Final Four. You have to remember, there's so many college basketball teams. To even make it this far, a major accomplishment. To even make the tournament, a major accomplishment. So, Final Four, champions in your own right, you know? Villanova also made the Final Four in 1939. That was the first year of the men's tournament. Oregon won it that year over Ohio. Oregon this year, in their first round, I noticed that they won by a margin of 39 points. And I thought, maybe that's a tribute to the original tournament. Maybe I need to go back and look at the original tournament and see what happened that year. Villanova, their run ended in the Final Four that year. It could end this year in the Final Four. Villanova, V is also the 22nd letter. Remember the word basketball, the small way is 22. Villanova always having a good basketball program. I used to love Kerry Kittles when I was a kid. The head coach of the team, Gerald Taylor Wright. Again, that gematria of 96. Villanova's 96th year in the tournament. Jay Wright also has gematria of 49, like Revelation. The Big Way, 121, also like Revelation. Revelation's important because it connects to Philadelphia. The name Philadelphia comes from Revelation. Villanova, not too far away. The name Wright in Simple English gematria also sums to 85, like basketball. Gerald equals 64, like Villanova Wildcats, like March Madness. Fitting name for a basketball coach. Remember, it's a world of Manchurian athletes, Manchurian coaches. A lot of these people born and bred to be, born into Masonic families that run the show and have always run the show. Almost all of these sports that we know were created by Freemasons if you look up the history of them. Freemasons, the invisible architects of society. And I can't be mad at them, you know. I love basketball. I love a lot of these sports. It's what I grew up doing. This is what my childhood was about. He has birth numerology of 116. If him and Syracuse meet in the championship, let's just say Villanova and Syracuse advance today, I think Syracuse is going to end up winning it. Could be wrong about that, but just remember that. These numbers align with Syracuse. Syracuse and Villanova have the Philadelphia connections, which is present in this tournament, which was hinted at with the Amtrak train crash. I commented on the Philadelphia connections in my preview video, but I overlooked the connections to the teams that correspond, such as Villanova, such as Syracuse. This was the birthday boy last week. Won on his birthday. He's born in Philadelphia. Turned 22. Again, basketball equals 22. His name, Ryan Arcidonkio. Sorry, I just mutilated his name. But anyway, it equals 78. This year's the 78th year of the college tournament. And a big part of the reason I think North Carolina is going to win is because of this number, which we'll get to. I still see North Carolina with the strongest connections. At the end of the game, Ryan was on the line. He knocked in the 58th point. The name Ryan equals 58, just like Freemasonry. He did it with 33 seconds on the clock. Very suspicious ending. I have a video on this from last week if you want to go back and watch it. See if there's anything else I want to comment here on. Kansas lost with 59 points. 59 is the kill number in Jewish gematria. It was also the head coach of Kansas, Bill Self's 187th loss as head coach of Kansas. 187, the homicide code. The game before for Kansas, they finished with 79 points. The word murder equals 79. That might have been foreshadowing for what was to come against Villanova, something I overlooked. 79 is a hard number to read in sports. What I've noticed from this study is oftentimes if a team gets 79, they end up losing their next game. However, the word champion also has gematria of 79. There's a lot of duality in gematria. It's part of the trick, the layering of learning to read the projections. It's not an exact science. It takes a lot of connecting dots and a lot of understanding to, put it to the test. So, okay, today, Villanova versus Oklahoma. And the experts are saying Oklahoma's going to win. I saw Sports Illustrated projected Oklahoma to win 79-72. Talk about Oklahoma. They got some alignment. So anyhow, here's what's really interesting. Oklahoma and Villanova played earlier this year, and Villanova suffered their worst loss of the season against Oklahoma. The game was on December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, in Hawaii at the Pearl Harbor Classic. Notice that Oklahoma won 78-55. Again, this tournament is the 78th tournament men's college basketball, which began in 1939. Winning with 78-55 is interesting. What else is interesting is that game was 118 days ago. March Madness, the big way, equals 118. It's almost as if this game was foreshadowed. And what I'm trying to tell you is, it was. This is how the world of sports is scripted. This game right here, with its finish on this date, projected that these teams would meet in the Final Four. I didn't catch this because I don't follow college basketball. And, I read about this after the fact. But now seeing it, I go, look at that alignment. 118 days later, they meet in the Final Four, March Madness. Also, Pearl Harbor Day has gematria of 144. This is significant because April 4th, the date of the championship, equals 144. 44 also equals 144. Whoever wins in this game is going to be in the championship April 4th. See how it all comes together? Meeting in the Pearl Harbor Classic. This year, April 4th also falls on a date with 44 numerology. Just like today, April 2nd falls on a date with 42 numerology. Just the way the numbers line up this year. This stat they threw in here made me laugh. The senior leader is riding a 58% clip from deep through or NCAA tournament games. Remember, Ryan equals 58. He knocked in the 58th point last game. Freemasonry equals 58. This is one of their big numbers they love. There he is, number 15, and then the star Oklahoma Buddy Hield. His birth name is Chavano Hield. What's interesting about his name is it has gematria of 57, a number connected to championship. He's never been in a college basketball championship. This year might be his first year to be in one. He has the name for it. But this kid will also be going on to the NBA. He might have success in the NBA. But he's got those magical numbers in his name. Brock Osweiler, the 57th overall pick of the draft. Now a Super Bowl winner as backup QB. Plus a whole lot more. Go back and watch my other work. I talk about 57 a lot. World Series equals 57. Championship equals 57 written out equals Super Bowl. Major connections. Last year after the World Series, 57 days after it, Dave Henderson died at age 57. The name Henderson equals 57. The last team he ever played for was the Kansas City Royals, who won the World Series. This year he dies 57 days after it. He also played against the Mets in the World Series with the Red Sox in '86. Buddy Hield's birth numerology is interesting. He has a 33. Lots of these star athletes have the 33 birth numerology. So Oklahoma Sooners, another team with 64 gematria, just like Villanova Wildcats, just like Kansas Jayhawks. All of these teams having 64, corresponding with March Madness. Oklahoma also equals 31 like basketball, and if Oklahoma were to win the championship this year, they would finish with 31 wins. Very interesting. Oklahoma Sooners, the big way, also equals 181, just like Houston, Texas, where the championship will be held. And of course, Oklahoma, not too far from Houston, Texas. If they're in the championship game, they're going to have a lot of fans come out. They are the most closest to where the championship is held regionally. Also, today, if Oklahoma wins, it will be their 42nd tournament win ever on 4/2, April 2nd. Also a date with 42 numerology. Oklahoma the favorite, going for their 42nd win on a fitting date. It's also been 22 years since their head coach, Lon Kruger, made it this far in the tournament. Again, 22, a basketball number. And here's that prediction. Oklahoma 79, Villanova 72. Oklahoma's in their 109th year of existence. I have to let you know, Truth Seeker, I don't know what all of the numbers mean, but 109, it's one of these numbers that's a mystery to me, but in fighting is where I mostly notice this. A lot of the people who win have birth numerology of 109. There's something special about this number. I wish I could tell you more, but it's one that I recognize. So if Oklahoma wins this year, there's a narrative for them. Remember that. There's something up with 109 and champions. Like I said, a big part of the reason I put out this research is because I'm always looking for more people to help me and to make it more sound. A lot of lesser minds watch my videos and say, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I don't make these videos for those people. Those people are the lemmings of this earth. You could show them the absolute truth. They still wouldn't get it. For those of you who do get it and put in the time, you're who I do it for. I should document that Sooners has gematria of 33. Remember, Buddy Hield, the star player, has birth numerology of 33. Sooners also has gematria of 42. And again, going for their 42nd win in the tournament on 4-2 today. Lon Kruger. He's currently 63. That ties in with the year 666 as well. What stands out most about him is his birthday comes 137 days after the championship. 137 is the 33rd prime. His name's Lonnie, his birth name, a name with 33 gematria. Again, Sooners is 33. A whole lot of 33 connections here. From the birthday to championships, that's always something you want to measure when you're calculating these outcomes. There's some interesting alignment with Lonnie Kruger, coach of the Sooners. Let's see, is there anything else I didn't cover? All right, so that covers that matchup. You know, I'm torn on who's going to win that game. If I had to bet on it, I'd bet on Oklahoma. That said, well, I'll cover another point at the end. Don't take my word for it, but to me, more lines up for Oklahoma than Villanova. I think Villanova's big accomplishment was knocking out Kansas, and I think their run ends in the Final Four just like 1939. So the later game today is Syracuse and North Carolina. Syracuse Orange, what they shorten their name to, has gematria of 63. This ties in with the year of 666. Syracuse also has gematria of 48, just like Final Four. Final Four equals 48. Very possible Syracuse's run ends today. The teams that wear orange often get sacrificed in a metaphorical fashion in sports. Orange is typically the losing color. The teams with the 33 connections typically lose, but not always. Let's see. So something else I didn't put up here is that Syracuse is just like New York in gematria. Syracuse equals 111 in simple English gematria. And in English gematria, you multiply times 6. So Syracuse equals 666 in English gematria. New York's the exact same. New York's 111 and 666. Of course, Syracuse is in New York. Again, the Philadelphia 76ers basketball team began in New York as the Syracuse Nationals. So anyhow, Syracuse has some compelling numbers. And they also have numbers that sync up with Final Four. I think by the end of today, they will have lost to North Carolina in the Final Four. The head coach, Jim Boeheim, was born in the year 44. That stands out to me, and he's currently 71. 44 and 71 are the only two numbers that, when written out as words, sum to 144, like April 4th. Just documenting that. This is the only real 44 connection I can find to Syracuse. A fan pointed out to me that Derek Coleman's numbers retired with the team. Derek Coleman wore 44. Somewhat interesting, but not a super strong connection, and not as strong as North Carolina's, which we're getting to. The name James, that first name of the head coach, equals 48. Fitting for Syracuse. Syracuse equals 48. His date of birth, the head coach, has a life lesson number of 46. March Madness equals 46. Syracuse, again, is currently 116 years old. And as Dan pointed out earlier, if they won the tournament this year, they would get 67 wins, and it's been 67 years. Get this right, this was Dan's find. Syracuse would have 67 wins if they win the championship. This year is the 67th season of the Philadelphia 76ers. So, 67, it also comes back to Revelation, Philadelphia, like we talked about earlier. That's interesting. What else I notice, however, is that it's their 38th year in the tournament, and if they lose today, it'll be their 38th loss. The number 38 is typically not a good number. It's a number connected to death. Today, I think their season will end, the death of their season, against North Carolina. We'll talk about North Carolina's 666 connections and why I think Syracuse is a fitting opponent for them to advance over in the Final Four in just a moment. I should also point out that UNC, the abbreviation for University of North Carolina, has gematria of 38. Will they get their 38th loss in their 38th year against UNC? As I said from the beginning, everything seemed to be scripted for North Carolina. Roy Williams is the head coach of North Carolina. Coach Roy Williams equals 78 in gematria. Again, this is the 78th tournament, and Roy Williams began as an assistant coach at UNC in the year 78. These were some of the things I saw right away, and I said, perfect. He's also 65 years old right now. Kansas equals 65. That was part of the reason I thought that he'd face Kansas in the championship, the team he coached formerly. And who knows, maybe he might have. I might have pissed off the powers that be. They had to put in plan B. I don't think that's what happened, though. I think I overlooked the Philadelphia-Kansas train wreck connection. As I said, Villanova defeating Kansas makes perfect sense in light of that now. Roy Williams is also a name with 57, the championship number. If he wins, he will become the winningest coach in North Carolina basketball history, surpassing Dean Smith, who brought him into the program. Last year, Dean Smith died on February 7th, 2015. A year later, the Carolina Panthers would lose in the Super Bowl on that date. The date Dean Smith died was a date with 44 numerology. This year, the championship played on a date with 44 numerology. I think all of this stuff is connected. I did a video last year on the death of Dean Smith and all that was suspicious about it. You have to understand, in this world of rig sports, rig news, these Masons, they ritually sacrifice the people that they use. Coaches, players, entertainers, musicians, actors, politicians. This is a big sick web I am exposing. And remember, the point of this knowledge is to gain greater understanding of what's really going on in the world. I want the grown men to see through the rig sports and become more passionate about other things, like taking this world back from the madmen. Dean Smith, his birthday, August 1st, 1950, is also a date with 78 numerology. Dean Smith has the major Roy Williams, not Dean Smith. Roy Williams has birth numerology of 78. Again, a lot lines up for him and the University of North Carolina. His birthday comes 119 days after the championship game. All-seeing eye, Star of David, both equal 119. Special numbers. The little blurb about him becoming an assistant coach in 78. Dean Smith won his last championship in 93. His name equaled 93. Think about it. Tar Heels equal 34. Tar Heels won their first championship with Dean Smith in 82, 34 years ago. It's 2016. The point guard for North Carolina, Taylor Page, has name gematria of 78. In my preview video, I predicted that he would turn his season around, have a big tournament, and help be the storyline for why North Carolina won. A lot of people said before the tournament began, had he been playing better, North Carolina would have been the tournament favorite. Here they are in the Final Four. Notice that UNC is in their 106th year of existence. This is a number connected to prophecy. Prophecy equals 106. Prophecy in Jewish gematria also equals 666. Again, Syracuse in English gematria equals 666. This prophecy, the people who rule over us, the Masons and Zionists, they're into man-made prophecy and forging it, fixing it. So North Carolina advancing over Syracuse would be quite fitting. And at the same time, it could also go the other way. Maybe we're in store for a major upset. I don't remember the last time a 10 seed made it to the championship, but, it's possible. I could be wrong. It could be all about Philadelphia. Maybe we'll be looking at a Villanova-Syracuse championship. It remains to be seen. Also, with regards to 666 and this year's championship on April 4th, there's a connection to pi having to do with cycles and circles. And think about how these sports championships are an annual thing every year, like a cycle and circle. If you add the first 144 decimal points of pi, the number having to do with cycles and circles, it sums to 666. This is fitting for the championship being on April 4th. Last year, North Carolina or not last year, last week, North Carolina advanced on Easter Sunday, which has gematria of 44. Again, when you write out 44, it sums to 144. And in case you missed my work last week, there was a major clue at halftime that North Carolina might be the champions. In the background on the digital banner at halftime, they had championship up here. Tar Heels in gematria equals 34 and 43. The word champion the small way equals 43. March equals 43. This was the final game of March. I think this banner might have said it all right here. Still remains to be seen, but I think this was a major clue at halftime. I have videos last week. I'll link them in the description on last week's games, the Elite Eight games. Also last week, this is how the game finished. North Carolina won with 88 points over Notre Dame with 74. Tar Heels the big way equals 88. The small way 34 and 43. And again, 34 years since Jordan won with Dean Smith. As for Notre Dame, the Catholic school going down was 74. It was on Easter Sunday, the day remembering that Jesus supposedly rose from the dead. Jesus equals 74, cross equals 74, Messiah equals 74, gospel, Joshua, the English translation of Jesus, Yeshua, the Greek spelling. Oregon is the only state with gematria of 74. It's the 33rd state. Think about Jesus on the cross at age 33. Think about the Catholic school going down on Easter Sunday with 74 points. All signs of the rigging. The rigging is undeniable. Do I have it here? I don't have it here, but I have it in the video last week. At the end of the game, North Carolina took a timeout at 34 seconds on the money with 88 points. Again, Tar Heels the small way, 34, 88 the big way. So we'll see what happens. I got to upload this video because tip-off is just 10 minutes away. One last point. There's also this article out. They're saying in this article, it says that North Carolina is the favorite to win and Villanova is also the second favorite to make it to the championship because where the Final Four games are today and where the championship is held is in a football stadium, which doesn't bode well for shooters. And North Carolina has the best inside game. Villanova has the second best. Thus, they're most likely to make it to the big game. Last week after Villanova upset Kansas, I got excited and I said right away, I think the championship will now be North Carolina and Villanova. After looking again at Oklahoma, I'm not so sure about that. Oklahoma has major alignment too. I put out the information. Use your mind. Don't trust me. Take this research, make it your own. You know, I never said to trust everything I said. From the beginning, I've always said I can be wrong. This is ongoing research. I'm a student of my own work. There's a lot of room for improvement. All of you who helped me, I'm grateful. If you're not helping me yet, you can become a person who helps me. Doing this work is like lifting weights for your brain. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time.